As we've already seen, there are 5 levels of prominence in spoken English, which range from the weakest, unstressed, reduced syllable to the single stressed syllable in a word group, which carries a nuclear accent, also called the tonic syllable or the nucleus. In this video, I'm going to talk about 2 things: about how prominence gets distributed and about contraction, a particularly important mechanism which helps the process of producing non-prominent, economical background syllables. Let me start though with stress. We have observed that all stressed syllables, i.e. stressed syllables with or without accents, levels 3, 4 and 5, are created with a respiratory pulse or push, and we have experimented with feeling the contraction of our abdominal muscles that contributes to this. Within any intonation phrase or word group, one word gets singled out to carry the main accent or nuclear pitch change. This word is the focal point of the phrase, with its main syllable being produced at level 5 in the levels of prominence diagram, and no other subsequent word will carry a change of pitch. There can, and usually will be, other stressed syllables in the phrase, before and after, and one of the preceding syllables might also be accented, level 4 in the diagram. So how do we explain to students how this apparently complex pattern emerges from a group of words? Indeed, how does a string of words become a meaningful message? The easiest way to differentiate between words is to look at what is important in the word group. Normally speaking, and we'll come back to what we mean by that in a minute, the key message lies in active verbs, nouns, adjectives and adverbs, what we call content words. And the words that drop into the background are articles, prepositions, auxiliaries, quantifiers and pronouns, what are called function words. If you want to think of this idea visually, you could imagine content words as the bricks of the language and function words as the mortar. Content words carry rhythmic stress, with a beat on one or sometimes more of their syllables, whilst whenever grammar words are more or less predictable, they are reduced as much as possible to save energy. When, for example, we have a sentence like, "He's in the shed at the bottom of the garden," shed, bottom and garden will be stressed. If we don't have a context for the statement, we'd probably put the nucleus on garden, as it's the last lexical item in the utterance. If you couldn't speak English but wanted to indicate where someone was, saying shed, bottom, garden would effectively get the message across, even if you wouldn't score very highly on grammar. If there's some context, for example, if this statement resulted from a discussion as to whether someone was in the shed or in the greenhouse, we might put the emphasis on shed, because shed has become the focus of the word group, the most pivotal part of the utterance. He's in the shed, not the greenhouse. We would achieve this by placing the nuclear accent there. Finally, let's look at some examples of stressed but unaccented syllables. In these examples from John Wells's book on intonation, we've underlined accented syllables and put a raised circle in front of the other stressed syllables, those which are unaccented. Does Peter really want me to tell him? Andrew was quite sure he'd lost it. The first exam paper and the second exam paper. Between stressed syllables and reduced syllables, there are the orphans of English, syllables which are neither stressed nor reduced. Like reduced syllables, they have to be said on the remnants of the stress pulse that has been applied to another syllable. But unlike reduced syllables, they have a full vowel in them. They're the type of syllables that are the norm in most languages, but they're the least common syllable type in English. Without you working on stress and reduction with your students, this is the type of syllable they will probably produce, and it will make their English difficult to understand by native speakers. Examples of words which do contain unstressed but full vowel sounds are yellow, window, pharaoh, Afghan, carnation, convert, handicap, prestige, torment, epoch, and contract. These words, although not unusual, are not high frequency either. We've talked about how to produce reduced syllables, those containing members of the schwa family, but there's an important mechanism in English that turns the syllables of function words into reduced syllables or elides the syllables completely, both contributing to saving the speaker energy. This is the phenomenon of contraction that your students may be familiar with from reading and writing, but may not always deploy in their speech. If we don't contract in spoken English, it sounds stilted and formal. In addition to this, it means that we effectively waste energy on function words and detract from the main message, the active verb. Consider, for example, I will see you later. See and later would probably be accented in this word group with the nucleus on later. If we don't contract, we reduce the energy available for see by expending too much effort uttering I and will separately. Using a contraction with function words makes the stress on content words more effective as a prominence mechanism. In short, contraction makes stressed syllables stand out more. Try saying these contracted and full forms and you'll see what I mean. You will see what I mean. What had upset you? I had just lost my purse. What had upset you? I just lost my purse. They are my best friends. They're my best friends. We would love to come to the party. We'd love to come to the party. Many non-native English speakers are not aware of the reduced or weak forms of function words, which not only makes rapid connected speech even more difficult for them to understand, but also means that their English never sounds authentic. We've looked at how these forms are produced, with a stutter on the consonant or between consonants. But what is produced? Something quite unlike what many speakers have been practicing for years. The auxiliary can, for example, becomes can. In the statement, I can see the moon, can bears little resemblance to the full version. Similarly, do and you in the question, do you like it? Become d and y, respectively, when said in colloquial speech. This can be quite a shock to those who have previously been articulating the dictionary form. Have a look at the following weak forms. To. She went to work early. To becomes t. Ah. What are you doing? Ah becomes Was. Was it warm in Spain? Was becomes was. From. This card's from my uncle. From becomes from. There. There weren't enough drinks. There becomes the. Can. Where can we buy a snack? Can becomes can. Her. Her car's broken down. Her becomes h. For. I'll repeat for the last time. For becomes f. You can download a PDF here which looks in depth at the 50 most common words in the English language which are almost always reduced to a member of the schwa family in the context of a reduced syllable. Does this mean we never use the full version? Definitely not, but it's rare that these words need to be given prominence in a sentence. When they do, it's explicit and fundamental to the sense of the message. Consider, for example, I thought you said you were going to London, not coming from London. In this utterance, the prepositions to and from would be accented, given greater prominence, as they are the key to the meaning of the message.